about the niceness of CEOs. Does it help? And how do we think about being a leader in our different areas of our life, or even just in our family? It can be important. All right, so my title is just trying to be catchy here. Stop being nice and start building psychological safety. Why the best leaders don't punish failure. And after these slides, we're going to have a discussion. So I I often think about how to be a good leader because I lead in many different situations and I've been a leader in many past situations and I'm hoping to be a leader in very large situations again in the future, and I'm leading right now. And there's this balance of being nice and trying to get things done. And so I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I actually decided to do a deep dive research into this. And so I started with this request to ChatGPT about, do nice guys really finish last? What's the data say? And I actually learned a lot about the history of this. This saying is actually from baseball. And I know, I'm like, what a baseball saying. Nice guys finish last is something that came from the baseball world. But usually in business, niceness is sometimes seen as a weakness. But I'm going to dispel that myth in this presentation today. So the twist is that the data shows psychological safety is the thing that's actually different than just being nice. So true leadership, when we're saying like successful leaders, because sometimes there's a lot of bad leaders out there, we don't want to punish failure. But even just that one sentence is like 20,000 books, right? Don't punish failure. Uh, but you want to instead create a space for risk taking and learning. And niceness without accountability is stagnation. So whenever you have these kind of like polarities, it's nice to make a polarity map. So we're going to look at that. So this is a nice little polarity map where we see, I'll walk through it. So polarity map is a way to map out things that are on a spectrum. So over here, let's start on the left-hand corner. We have low accountability. So low accountability, and then we go across the, is it the x-axis? I'm so dyslexic. Anyways, across to the right-hand side, and we have high accountability. So you can just think of, as a leader, are you holding people accountable? Over on the left side, like not accountable at all. You don't really follow up with people. You don't ask them to do much. And then on the other side of the spectrum is really high demands of your team. You're asking them to deliver like stretch goals and push themselves, and there's tight deadlines that are actually that matter. That deadlines mean something and they're not just ideas that sort of fly by. And then at the top of this polarity map is high psychological safety, and I'll define that in a second, and low psychological safety at the bottom. So high psychological safety means that people feel that they can take risks. So when they try something new, they are not going to be punished for that, and if it fails. And then low psychological safety is they know that people do not like new things. If anyone fails at anything, they're probably going to get fired. They're going to get yelled at. Their end of year review will have them at a much lower level if they messed up something. And so there's a risk averseness in this low psychological safety. So this is this polarity map that I've pulled together after pulling together a lot of research on these kind of CEOs. So we're going to jump into this with some colors. So up here in the left-hand corner is comfort zone. So when you have low accountability and high psychological safety, meaning take risks, but there's no standards. We're not trying to have deadlines. You know, people can basically do what they want. That's called a day at the beach, right? That's a day at the beach. It's very nice to go to the beach. There's not a lot of danger, not a lot of risk. Everything's fine, cool, be chill. Then let's look down here, this one. So if you make a mistake, you're going to be yelled at, right? So low psychological safety and low accountability. So you have low safety and low standards. So now you just don't care about. This is where it becomes a dump. So this is apathy zone. So the apathy zone is where we don't care, don't try anything, keep your head down. Keep your head down, don't get in trouble. No one cares anyway, so why are you going to try something? All right, and then let's go to the top right-hand corner. Safety and accountability. So this is the learning zone. So we have high standards, we have tight deadlines, and we also want to try things. So you have some new process you want to try. It doesn't work, but that's okay because we want you to try stuff and you're going to learn a lot from that mistake. And then the next time you do something, you're going to actually bring that learning and you're going to do even better. So we have high standards, high accountability, but you can do, if you mess up and you show that you were really trying something new that's really innovative, go for it. And then we have the fear zone down here in the right bottom half corner where it's high accountability. So we have tight deadlines, people need to get stuff done, but if you mess up, you're going to be yelled at. You're going to be in trouble. You might get fired. So this is the zones of leadership, and you need to think as a leader of like, what are you creating? What are you creating? So you create this through culture, but also through how you measure progress, success. And this is there again, this is there's so much here, and I had so much fun researching, and I wrote this very, very long article on my findings. But basically, you're creating this through your interactions with your team. You're creating this environment with how you measure success, how you come to work every day. It's your personal presence. And I'll go into that a little bit more as we go through this. So this is without all the extra stuff on it. You can just see the 4 zones. All right, I want to jump a little bit into green versus yellow leadership.
Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be another probably fun thing to talk about during the discussion. So these are again are, I mean, there are stereotypes obviously because there's no one that's exactly one of these. But if we look at green, it's very empathetic, harmony, avoiding conflict, right? That's a stereotype, but that can be something that they really emphasize. And then yellow is very decisive and effective and makes hard calls. So great leaders actually have to balance these two. So you don't have to be rude when you're holding people accountable. Like there's no need to be rude about it. But if someone misses a deadline, you have to say, all right, well, this was a very important customer and now they're very angry at us and we're going to have to make a plan to come up with something. Like it's important. We can't just like, not hold people accountable for things. At the same time, sometimes yellow people could be a little bit, not nice at all. And so that's not good. So really you have to kind of find that balance. And again, that's that psychological safety and holding people accountable. That's the polarity that, and again, I would love during the discussion section to hear what people think about this. So to actually make this whole thing work, it is about emotional intelligence. And if you don't believe me, which I'm sure you all do actually believe me, but I'll just pretend like you don't. Imagine, actually, we don't even have to imagine. I am currently the COO of a nonprofit, and I have people coming to me doing work for me, and I work for my CEO. So, for example, if I try some new presentation technique and it doesn't go well, and if she says to me, this is like based on true story here. She's like, this is terrible. You really screwed up. I can't believe I'm so angry at you. This is the worst thing ever. Everything is going to be terrible. And basically, I'm not even doing a really good job of having like a huge emotion, but let's just, pretend like I'm way more emotional. I really am not actually as good at that as I'd like to be in acting. So she just like has this huge blow up. Well, let's just say, that did or didn't happen. But anyways, let's say it did happen. And now, how am I going to be coming to work from now on? Right? If I tried something, she had this crazy emotional meltdown, and then she said she was sorry later. Just like thinking about my own self, this is all fictional, by the way. Perhaps it's fictional. I can't see everyone's face, so. It's just like these kind of things are really changing the culture. Even if the leader says, like, oh, we want you to try stuff, we want to try things and be a learning organization. Like, those are those wall posters that you know are not real at corporations, right? Because the emotional intelligence has to be matched up with that desire. So, when I was a leader in Toastmasters, I was the district director for 1 year of the District 57, which is Northern California. I had 60 people that worked for me, volunteers. And literally every day I had a meeting with somebody who's like, oh my gosh, Bet, we screwed up. We didn't advertise enough for this event. And now there's 3 people signed up and we lost $100 on the venue because we already paid it and we bought $30 worth of food or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? What did we learn from this? We learned stuff from this today. And I would have to just be like super calm because these are volunteers who are just doing their best. And even though our nonprofit is losing money left and right, it's like I can't basically take it out. I have to say, okay, let's work backwards and figure out how to make sure we don't do this again. And we can learn things from this. So, especially when you're a nonprofit or you're a small business or whatever it is, and there's money being lost, the emotions can be really real. And so learning how to manage your emotional state, it's not a theoretical thing of like, oh, that would be really nice. This is like something that leaders have to work on every single day, work on their emotional regulation, which I have a whole website on that on my yoga website because I'm a yoga teacher. And so I really understand how to manage your regulation, which is basically understanding how cortisol spikes. Your brain gets full of cortisol. It's a real physical thing. Your face gets hot and you have to learn how to breathe and feel the ground to get grounded. Anyways, I'm not going to go into all that right now. But emotional intelligence, working on this is one of those integral life practices that you can manage your state, recognize your state, respond, and regulate yourself. And when people are coming to you and they're having breakdowns, right? They're going
Mhm.
to be throwing all kinds of emotions at you and like they're quitting, they're never coming back, they're going to write a bad review, right? They can really, it can be a lot of emotions going all around. And then on top of that, some other bad thing happen. So this is the key here is emotional intelligence because one angry outburst can destroy all the nice phrases on your wall that you made a nice poster. And I actually made this image just to show. So you have this whole team, they're up working up here in the learning zone. And then one flash of anger, everyone's like, you know what? I think we better not screw up because our boss could be very mad at us and they're going to be right back down here. And that's the end of innovation, right? You need your teams to be trying new things. Don't keep doing the same old thing over and over. You got to try new stuff. All right, onwards. So I asked ChatGPT, we worked on this for many days, if not a whole week or more, to figure out some examples of learning zones. So this is some of the people that my ChatGPT brought back. So Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, Tim Cook is Apple. Okay, so Satya Nadella is Microsoft. I know everyone's not into tech like I am. So Microsoft, Tim Cook is Apple, and he is everyone knows like the Apple products are extremely high quality, right? I mean, I think we all know that's why they're so expensive. I actually can't remember who Hamdi is. I'll have to look that up because I forgot. That was one that I didn't know before. All right. So other proof. So looking at psychological safety, that was like these people who are creating this psychological safety and who are great learning zone leaders. And this is more data around psychological safety. So Google had this project Aristotle that psychological safety was the top predictor of team success. Gallup also has found more profitability, 21% and 17% productivity. MIT Sloan said empathy plus accountability equals resilience, innovation, and Harvard Business Review said humble, inclusive CEOs include create higher innovation. So we really have to flip this whole myth that I started with. It's not just niceness. because these pushover bosses who we've probably all met in our life, especially if we've been around nonprofits or maybe like a small business that doesn't exist anymore. Sometimes we meet these people who are so nice, but they don't really hold anyone accountable. People who are go-getters who get into those kind of organizations, they leave because
Hmm.
people who are go-getters want to work where there's standards, want to see where there's recognition of good work and deliver things on time. But toughness without empathy is going to create this terror, and people are going to just leave or just hide. They're just going to keep their heads down. They're not going to try anything. So you really have to have the safety plus accountability plus the emotional regulation, because otherwise you're just putting placards on the wall without actually the follow through. All right. So, not ruthless, not nice. Leaders who create psychological safety finish last. So stop punishing failure, everybody, and start building leader learning cultures. All right, so we're going to go to a group discussion. I would love to hear your stories of your leadership or when you're in a followership and something that happened, and not just bad stories, but we probably are going to remember the ones that are bad, right? But also love to hear the ones that are inspiring to you. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. All right. So, this is anyone who wants to share. This is not compelled. Not compelled.
Okay.
I'm going to take some water.
I
Yeah.
just want,
Go ahead.
I just kind of wanted to, and I was not a leader, but I worked in two places that I kind of wanted to compare. Well, funny enough, and it's a story by itself, how I ended up working for a Catholic cottage for women in Milwaukee. I'm Jewish, and me and college for women are, I don't know, two worlds, but I didn't have any other job, and I ended up there, which I'm thankful for. I had a lot of prejudice, which anyway, they were very high on both developing the students' ability and their staff, and evaluation was a big thing.
Mm,
So when you do evaluation, I mean, safety is a must
mm,
because otherwise everybody will try to hide all the problems under the carpet and
mm,
try to say, oh yeah, we succeeded, da, 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 da. You know, everything looks nice and rosy and no, no, we have no problems, everything is just fine. And when it's true evaluation, like, and you have to learn to take critique. I mean, and it helps me a lot as an author now because yeah, everybody likes to hear that they are great. But if you know that the critique you learn under in a culture of safety, that a critique is actually help you to be better,
Yes.
it's good for you, good for institution, good for everything, good for the
right.
student, whatever. This
Yeah.
is a skill that you need to learn,
Yeah.
but you can only learn it in a safety place. Yeah, standard should be high, and this is a standard that you're okay. And you say, yeah, maybe you're not there, but here, wonderful, you progress. You were here, now you are here. So you do it in a nice way. In fact, to
Mm,
talk about the good thing and the progress, and they say, okay, yeah, you progress, but here are something that you need to do better. That's how
mm,
we critique in the critique group too, right? We're not the, oh yeah, it's
Yes.
terrible. Yeah,
mm,
Yes.
even so. Well, not in this group, but I had some group that's what I felt, but that's not
Uh-huh.
what you say. And then after I worked in this culture, we moved to another place, and
mm,
I was fast enough to analyze the change of culture of organization. And when I dare to mention a problem, and I thought, okay, let's, you have problem, everybody would say, okay, let's figure out how to solve it. That's what I was used to. Well, no, that was a different culture. If you
Mm.
have a problem, you are the problem. So
Mm.
that's, there are people like that. You're not supposed to have problems. I mean, because nobody ever report problem, right? And that's what will happen in a culture of fear. I mean,
Yes.
you don't dare to report any problem because then you're going to get fired. So
Yeah.
you try to cover up, and Yeah, everything is nice. Sometimes it's possible. I guess maybe money, it's not always, but sometimes you can kind of hide things. And it's not only that it's impede innovation, it just even the routine is not working well, even without evaluate, because you have got to evaluate what you are doing regardless of innovation. Innovation is trying to do something new, but sometimes you have to reevaluate the old stuff too, because everything changes, reality changes. So something that work today may not work well tomorrow. So that's, yeah, safety, I all for it. Um, and you need to know where you are at and what institution you are at. So this is my piece of wisdom. And yeah,
I love the contrast. It's very stark, and I'm sure you can see which organization is winning over time, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
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 If you want people that think and feel good and feel safe and problems are solved, not
Right.
hidden. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. Tamar, while you were talking, and you were just and then you started talking about the second organization where if you have a problem, you are the problem, so you learn not to speak up. I was thinking blaming the victim was what flashed in my mind as you were
Not
speaking.
necessarily victim, but everybody
Yeah.
can have you are new in the job and you may have problems, right? You're not a problem, you're learning the job. But you're not supposed to, I mean, you're supposed
Yeah,
to be
that
on
it's
your
it's
own.
not okay. It's taboo to have to
It's
express
about to have a problem.
to
Everything is
express a
nice, everything
problem.
is good. Everybody is smiling, everybody is nice.
That's
And you
terrible.
ask somebody to do something, yes, 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 I'll help you, nothing happens.
Yeah.
That was what was going, it drove me nuts.
And those and organizations where that's the culture, they do not thrive as well as the kinds of organizations Bett's talking about. But I was thinking the culture of safety, that I was also thinking about our writers group that we've been in since April
Yeah,
now. And that is specifically about creating a structure and a culture where we all are there because we want to improve a skill we have collectively, and we're there to critique. And this is something, oh my God, I could write an article, writers' workshops, the good, the bad, the ugly, knowing how to give critique that is helpful and constructive and not painful. That is a
yeah.
skill that few of us have
Oh,
innately, but it can be learned. And that's part of what this gets to. And then it, because we all want to become better at things we like to do or want to do or need
yeah.
to do. Of course, we want to improve. We want to be around people who will help us, and creating a culture, and that some of that's innate, just kind of inbuilt, but a lot of that is learned, can be learned, and needs to be learned.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, but you also need to learn to receive critique
and how to receive it. Yes.
because that's sometimes not easy. I mean,
Oh
not
yeah.
easy, but and you've got to trust the people that they really want to help you. I mean,
Yeah.
they tell you what they think to help you, not to hurt you or to bully you or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And no, but yeah, because I don't know, I didn't have any ugly critique group. I had two before this one. But there was one that the guy had a high standard, and this was the first chapter of Devolution, which, and they just tore it apart. And I said, okay, I'm going to rewrite it and I'm going to resubmit it next time. And the same guy that was the most critical said that he have never seen somebody change so fast
Wow.
between the previous and the second. Well, you had more critique
I,
after that, of course, but
of course.
this was the best compliment I've ever received. Because if somebody tells you it was terrible and now it's, well, not perfect, but it's good and it's huge improvement, this is a compliment, right? I mean,
Very good.
and he said a lot of people come up and when I told them something like this, ran away and never came back. So what
This
did you
link,
get?
So I'm just going to wrap us up on this one because I want to keep going.
Oh,
I want to
okay.
hear from Larry.
Larry,
Larry, did
yes.
you have anything like love that Tamar's little story about the two contrasting environments? Do you have anything like that? And also could be from your leadership also.
Yes. In my ILEA pod group, We've had 3 meetings. Maybe close to a dozen people have signed up. 1 or 2 people show up at each meeting. Uh, I thought I was very clear in the way this was described, uh, as that we are going to learn how to do this stuff. And what I learned was that, so in other words, I was aiming for the upper right quadrant of your diagram.
Yes.
And when I saw the lack of attendance, uh, and the lack of commitment, uh, to first I reacted the way the Larry body reacts, which is resentment. Uh, how dare they not line up behind me and march in the step with the way I do? And then I thought, well, wait a minute. Take a look at this list. I know the people on this list. I've seen them in action. These aren't slouches. These aren't people who sign up for stuff and don't think.
Mm-hmm.
These are power hitters. So if they are interested in what I'm doing, and and, and they are, um, not showing up to the degree that I would like them to, the much more likely explanation is they've got a lot on their plate. So what can I do about that? And I decided that if I was going to be in a leadership role here, the best thing I could do is to power through myself and be that example of what it looks like when you're digging in and doing this, convey that to the 2 or 3 people who are showing up all the time, uh, and and they're not there every week. I mean, I got one week, one week, and so but I've got a direction that I'm going in. I've got a plan that's already written out for me. All I have to do is plug and chug. And so what I switch from that upper right quadrant to an upper left quadrant approach, which is, in this where I wanted accountability, I'm going to forego accountability in favor of attraction as a vehicle.
Okay.
Hmm.
Comfort zone.
Hmm.
You're
Well,
making
it's their comfort zone, and
hopefully.
when they can see that jumping out of their comfort zone, um, or to the which would look like I'm going to rearrange something so I can show up more often, or I'm going to ask Larry if he can get off of this Monday kick. You know, now no one's gone that far yet because everybody pretty much likes to roll along with whatever the leader is doing in these pods. So that's another thing. If you want a generic example of not getting anything done and having a really great group, I would say any men's group I've ever been in. Because
Sure.
given the opportunity, these guys will sit around and have another beer.
My husband was part of one of those groups, so I've heard about it. All right, Karen, so you kind of did a little bit of questioning with Tamar, but do you have any examples from your guru or any of the other
Yeah.
situations that you want to share with us? By the way, thanks, Larry. That was
Yeah.
entertaining also.
Yeah, 2 things quickly through one and then a little more through the second. Yes, my experience with leadership have been in the mid 90s. My guru ended up tasking me with what ended up being creating a not-for-profit corporation, getting it created, set up, running, and then running it for 4 years. And he liked what I did so well, he kept giving me expanded roles in this. So so I have successfully created a 501c3 corporation that 30 years later is still going strong. The successor guru is somebody I want nothing to do with, so I'm out. But that was, I feel like, that's a feather in my cap. The average, this is as of a generation ago, but as of a generation ago, the statistics were the average life expectancy of a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation is 5 years. They tend to be very dysfunctional because, and they fall into the low accountability. The way the finances, people are attracted to them out of passion or what have you, but there tends to be not much efficiency in how you run it. Uh, They may have the safety, they may not have the safety. Some of them can have, it depends on the personalities of the people involved. And with that, I'll go into my others. And that was, I mean, it, it was 4 years of my life. I'm glad I did it, and I don't want to do it again. I prefer being a catalyst to being a leader, but I have had serious, conveying the vision and motivating people, inspiring, and then giving them structure enough that they can get started, and kind of keeping them in their keeping them motivated, connected, and seeing that the pieces are running together. And that goes into the second part. Way back in the late 80s and early 90s, my husband and I were early adapters of home computers. I volunteered at the Berkeley Mac user group. I used to be a power user, believe it or not, Bett, 30 years ago. And I mean, those guys who ran the Berkeley Macintosh Power Group, I think they powered their brains by sticking their little fingers in the ISBN ports. I mean, these were serious smarts, but they had no emotional intelligence. So part of what I did was kind of help bridge the gap between them and some of the staff they were employing. But I really knew computers back then. The specific story, the point of the story I'm about to tell is that the emotional maturity, the capacity to self-regulate, and also when things are really going to hell and people around you are losing it, a leader is self-regulating, not just for themselves, but for everybody else there. That when other people are losing it, the leader or somebody in the group needs to be able to absorb the impact and self-regulate for the others. And this was Berkeley BMUG, we called it. It put out 2 newsletters a year. They were really very thick books. They were massive journals. And they were kind of the leading edge of Apple, that was in its first real flush heyday. Apple didn't even have a help phone call. They said, get in touch with Berkeley Mac Users Group. We were unofficially there. Yeah. And so putting out, and the nerds who ran it had no business sense whatsoever. So they're always on the edge of not managing the money well enough to be able to stay in business at all, because you can't get too out of balance with your income and your outflow, or you just can't do anything, right? You go bankrupt. So they were always teetering on that edge. And they had this one. They were the main organizers were flying off to some big international computer conference, and they needed that newsletter to be able to take with them. And we were compiling. That was in the first days of desktop publishing. I was one of the early adapters. We were laying out this like 300-page journal, very technical, and it was overnight. It had to get to the printer by 6 in the morning. We had to get the floppy disk back then to the printer 6 in the morning. And a couple of things had gone wrong in the office, and they hadn't fixed one of the printers, so we could only print a page at a minute. And so the last 48 hours, it was one of those overnight jobs. The small team had been working there since 9 in the morning, the day before, working overnight, no sleep, and we're coming down to the hour, and it looks like it may not happen. And the gal who was in charge of the project lost it, and she started blaming me. And I'm just sitting there. I mean, she was doing the fancy stuff that I didn't know, like the page, the cover and the higher end organizing. But I was just laying out the page, this page, and then arrange it on the page and this page, then lay it on the page and the margins and the spacing between the paragraphs. And I'm just plugging away and exhausted at the end of just never been so exhausted in my life. And are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? And if they cannot take this to the conference, then we won't get the next tranche of whatever the business connections, and the whole organization might go belly up if we don't make this 6 a.m. deadline, right? Wow. And the boss lost it and started blaming me, and started glaring at me, hanging over my shoulder, making grim comments as I'm trying to fill out the next page, trying to get the next page. We've got this hard deadline, and are we going to make it? And are we going to make it? And I was at the breaking point anyway, because no sleep and so on. And I remember at one point when she went off to get another cup of coffee or something, just sat back and said, what the hell is, because I just wanted to, I'm a volunteer. I didn't have to be there. I just wanted to walk out and go home and scream and then pass out. And I think it was like 3 in the morning, and she went off, and I just kind of sat there. And I'm a longtime meditator, and I've done a lot of Jungian stuff and so on. I just sat there. what's the bottom line here? And I got this image of a 4-year-old child lost in the dark wailing. She's terrified. She's terrified. This is on, this was her paid job, right? She was running the office and she was responsible for getting this thing. And this is her job and her profession. And she's terrified. And I remember coming, okay, I get where she's coming from now, but no shit, now what? Because I'm still, at the end of my rope and we're still not sure what, and I just kind of, basically, I really, in hindsight, basically I self-regulated for her as well as myself. And I would just say when she would come out with these grim, glaring, blaming statements, I'd say, let's just focus on getting this next page in, or, it would be more helpful if we just both focus our attention on, and I just kept plugging away and plugging away. And eventually she went back and started plugging away. And you know what? We made it. We finished, we got it off to the printer at 6 o'clock, and I went home and I never volunteered there again.
Well,
But we got the bloody thing finished.
but you know what, Karen? What if she had been different? What if she'd been like, Karen, you are doing so well. We appreciate you so much.
I would have come
Huh?
back. I would have gone back and kept
So there you
volunteering there.
go.
Yeah.
But you
She
don't know if you
failed.
were finished. I don't know. You may
I
not have
just
finished it.
I just think that as a leader, we really need to recognize the power we have, that people are looking to us. And if we're having these emotional outbursts that even we think are probably not a big deal, like they're really harmful to our followers. And
Yes.
it's so like these little tiny things. I think it's obvious with our spouses, right? Like we think we're not making a big deal or something, but they're like, you're being crazy.
It's
Larry,
like, oh, my tummy hurts.
Larry, do you have a spouse or anything like that?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, no. I meant to get married, but I forgot. I had a lot
Ah,
of stuff going on.
hey, you don't have to deal with as much craziness. But anyways, all right. Well, we're about time. In the last few minutes here, is there any other final thoughts on like tricks and tips, especially from Larry with Integral Life Practices deep dive into emotional regulation? Any
Deep breath
Yeah.
before you want to scream.
Well,
Yeah, mindfulness.
Yeah.
to be aware of the problem, which you've essentially illustrated today, uh, I it's a bigger problem than tips and tricks can fix over time. It's a great band-aid to hold the blood from going out, but there needs to be an ontological reconstruction of what's going on in these circumstances so that we can develop plans for how to operate in this kind of a way. It won't just be count to 10 and hope and then be nice.
right,
Uh, so I just want to say with my impression is it's bigger than one meeting does, than one meeting fixes it. But the easier question is then who already has thought through this a lot? Who are the people who have made constructions of these kinds of things and get along, sorting that out. And it's not always psychological problems of the individual that are manifesting in the organizational role. Sometimes it's a tendency, sort of um, Enneagram tendencies, people butting heads with their styles of how they get stuff done. So
yeah.
the causes could be multiple as well. This is a real iceberg tip you're pointing at.
I I totally agree. I totally agree. There's so many things under that. Yeah. So from a yoga perspective, and I'm always working on this. Like I'll just tell you guys maybe a funny story. Yesterday we were driving to a park in Tilden Park, Karen, and we're in the Bay Area, and my husband was driving, and the GPS told a certain way, And for some reason, I think I had too much coffee, which again, like these also like substances can really mess us up, right? And I thought for sure that my husband's going the wrong way. And I was like, you're going the wrong way. And I just like completely blew up. And I keep looking at him, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like he was like, no, 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 we're really going the right way. And I was like, I can't believe I just like had this huge emotional reaction. And it's like, we're going for a hike with some friends. It's like not a big deal. Anyways, I think there's just like how much coffee am I having? Like maybe I should regulate a little bit better. Am I getting a good night's sleep? Right? All of these little things that go into the integral life practices, right? So that we can, because we never know when these kind of curveballs are going to be thrown at us.
Mm.
We have to be able to come with calmness and presence. And I guess at the end of the day, also just tell our team like, hey, I had too much coffee today. I'm just gonna let you know that right now. I mean, also just maybe that could help so they know like, okay, just calm down, everything's fine. But anyways, that happened to me yesterday and I was like, I can't. I thought I'd mastered this. But even as a yoga teacher. But yeah, the breath, and I think normally when I'm not freaking out about my husband turning the wrong direction, which he wasn't, it's also like feeling the ground, like under the feet and the sits bones. That's like a nice way. And that's what I did once I was like, okay, everything's okay. And I started taking some deeper inhales and exhales. But yeah, it's all a practice. I think that's where it comes down to.
And just the mindfulness type meditations just really nailed this, just being aware of what is arising inside in response to what we're perceiving outside and being learning. And this is, I use my dojo metaphor. We go to a dojo and work out and everybody there can throw us. And we have no idea what they're doing. But if we keep turning up and practicing, eventually we kind of start to see how they're doing it, but they can still
Mhm.
throw us. And then we start being able to throw one or two of them. And then we get better and even the more advanced people can't throw us anymore. And so, and I mean, this is like steady practice, and the mindfulness meditations are excellent with being aware of the reaction as it's arising, and eventually we get to the point where we can catch it before it erupts, before it
Yes.
throws us. So
Yeah.
that was, but eventually we still get thrown from time to time, like Bette and her husband.
And then you just got to roll with it and be like,
Yeah,
I am so sorry. I don't know. I was so worried about turning on the wrong road. All right. So, anyways, thank you all so much.
thank
Let me
you.
just do some final plugs. Okay. So, Karen is in the Integral Writer Support Pod on October 6th. We're having Dr. Jane
Gene
Simmons, and she's
Simmons.
going to go over why
She,
you should
she's, I'm going to
coach.
interview her. She just recently learned how to be a quote book coach, and I am going to interview her. What does that mean for her and us? And a number of people from Cosmos Cooperative Writing Circles will probably be there too.
Awesome. Okay, so that's happening on October 6th. And then
Six.
again, tell us what's the next chapter, Larry?
Well, here's again, my plan was to do one chapter each month on each call.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so, and we were going to start, we did the first call with just the intro and everything. And then the first thing that we got into was shadow. And I am frozen now in shadow because I think it's bigger than
One week, 1 month.
than we this was way bigger. It's like, oh, we've got spirit and mind and body and shadow. Let's cover shadow first. Whoa, man, Carl Jung wrote volumes about this. And now we're going to do 3, 2, 1 and everything's going to be okay. I don't think so. So I'm looking for, I could use a Marco Morelli or somebody who's got some practice to help in this
Whoa.
group because it's going to be too superficial to not to just move on and just do one chapter a month. So
Wow.
it's going to be problems associated with applying um, shadow work.
Gosh, I wish
Is
I
that
could attend if it were any other time because I have a lot of experience with Jung and shadow, and this is fast. You're
Larry,
right, you can't do it in just one meeting.
Larry, you know
thing?
that you could have your support pod on any day of the week, any time of the day. So
Well,
if
what I'll
you,
do now is I'll send out a list saying, does anybody really think that this would be a better that
Yeah.
everybody's got a better time. And we could take a run at it and see what everybody suggests.
If you have
Okay.
people who keep saying like, man, I really would love to do that because that sounds very intriguing. It sounds really good to me too. I would just check with people. This Zoom account is just for ILEA. So we only have a board meeting every once in a while. It's not this Zoom account is open for you and the community. So if you just tell me what other time works for you, you can have this meeting for your support bot at any time.
I'll
And
check in with them and report to you on the results.
the main thing, Larry, is that you can make it.
Well, I think I'll probably start by looking at my calendar and seeing what other days I have free, right?
Perfect. Perfect, Larry.
Good
Awesome.
leadership.
Awesome. Okay, I actually am looking for someone to speak at the October support pod. This one that is going to be on the third Monday every month. Does anyone have any topics inspired by anything I talked about today or a project that you're doing? So let me just tell you the exact date. So 1, 2, 3, the 20th of October. Anyone have any special things that are coming up? All right. Any Tamar, anything? No? You could practice leading. All right. Well, Wheaton, I know you're having dinner, but enjoy. And if you have an idea, Wheaton, we're very happy to think about other topics. I'm always looking for people to come in and speak and share. But all right, everyone, have a great month. And that was our last support pod of the month. So we'll see you guys all next month in October. October 6th is the next one. Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Take care.